Who really is to blame for the rising cost of the housing market? The landlords or the expats? Welcome to Dream Expat Destinations. In this video, we're diving into the issue of the current housing crisis in Europe and who's really behind it. As an expat myself, I am honestly upset by the aggression that is directed toward us for the rising cost of rent. Who in their right mind would want to pay higher rent, right? Part of the reason we moved was due to the low cost of living. Let me start by saying that being an expat means meeting a lot of requirements, particularly having a certain amount of money in the bank, meeting a certain amount of income threshold, and we also need to go through rigid background checks just to be able to live in a country for a few years. More often than not, expats also become fiscal residents of their new country, so they contribute taxes. Anyway, let's get to the facts. In recent years, the housing market has been a hot topic of discussion, with prices soaring to unprecedented heights. A report by Eurostat revealed that house prices in the European Union rose by 5.3% in 2020 alone, while rents increased by 1.4%. These numbers are more than just statistics. They represent real people struggling to find affordable homes. But amidst this crisis, the question arises, who is really to blame for the rising cost of the housing market? Is it the landlords or the expats? A historical perspective, the housing market then and now. To understand the current crisis, it's essential to look back at the housing market's history. In the post-World War II era, many European countries faced severe housing shortages due to widespread destruction. Governments responded with large-scale public housing projects and subsidies to encourage private construction. For example, in the 1950s and 1960s, the UK and Germany saw significant government investment in housing, which kept prices relatively stable and affordable. Fast forward to today, and the picture is starkly different. The housing market in many European countries is characterized by a scarcity of affordable homes, especially in major cities. In places like London, Paris, and Amsterdam, house prices have skyrocketed, far outpacing wage growth. This trend is not uniform across Europe, however. Countries like Germany and Austria have managed to keep housing costs more stable through robust rental regulations and significant social housing. The current crisis. Causes of rising housing costs. Several factors contribute to the rising cost of housing, and it's crucial to dissect these elements to understand the root causes. Demand and supply imbalance. One of the primary reasons for rising house prices is the imbalance between demand and supply. Many cities have seen an influx of people due to urbanization, better job opportunities, and a higher quality of life. However, the supply of new housing has not kept pace with this growing demand, leading to higher prices. Speculation and investment. Real estate has become a popular investment vehicle for both local and international investors. This trend has led to increased speculation, where properties are bought not for living, but for investment purposes, driving up prices. Regulatory environment. The regulatory environment also plays a significant role. In some countries, restrictive zoning laws and lengthy approval processes make it difficult to build new housing, exacerbating the supply shortage. Gentrification. Gentrification, where wealthier individuals move into previously lower-income neighborhoods, can drive up property values and rents, displacing long-term residents. Low interest rates. Historically, low interest rates have made borrowing cheaper, enabling more people to buy homes, which further fuels demand and drives up prices. The role of expats. Expats, or expatriates, often find themselves in the crosshairs of the housing debate. Critics argue that expats, particularly those with high-paying jobs, drive up housing costs by increasing demand for upscale properties. This phenomenon is especially noticeable in global cities like London, Berlin, and Amsterdam, where international professionals are drawn by lucrative job markets and vibrant cultural scenes. However, blaming expats for the housing crisis is an oversimplification and ignores the broader, more systemic issues at play. Economic contributions. Expats often bring significant economic benefits to their host countries. They contribute to local economies by spending on goods and services, paying taxes, and fostering cultural exchange. Their presence can also create jobs, both directly and indirectly. Filling skill gaps. Many expats fill crucial skill gaps in industries such as technology, finance, and healthcare. These sectors often face local labor shortages, and expats help to bridge this gap, ensuring economic growth and stability. Proportion of population. In most countries, expats represent a small proportion of the overall population. For instance, in the EU, non-EU nationals account for just 4% of the population. While their impact on housing demand in specific areas might be noticeable, it is not the primary driver of rising prices. The role of landlords and local factors. While expats often receive a disproportionate share of the blame, a closer examination reveals that landlords and local policies are more culpable for the housing crisis. Landlords and rental practices. In many cities, landlords have significant power to set rental prices, often with little regulation. This can lead to rent gouging, where rents are raised far above what is reasonable, particularly in high-demand areas. Some landlords also engage in practices such as Airbnb rentals, which reduce the availability of long-term rental housing. Speculative investment. Wealthy individuals and investment firms often buy properties not to live in them, but as speculative investments. This practice reduces the availability of homes for people who need them and drives up prices. In some cases, entire apartment buildings remain empty because they are held as investments. Ineffective housing policies. Local governments sometimes fail to implement effective housing policies. This includes inadequate regulation of rental markets, insufficient investment in affordable housing, and restrictive zoning laws that limit new construction. For example, in London, the lack of new affordable housing developments has contributed significantly to the housing crisis. In Spain, there are barely 290,000 units, which means that only 1.6% of households are eligible for some type of public housing, compared to 10% in other neighboring countries. The war against immigrants, a distraction. The narrative that immigrants and expats are to blame for the housing crisis is not just incorrect. It is a deliberate distraction orchestrated by those who benefit from the status quo. Wealthy landlords and investors have a vested interest in diverting attention away from their practices, which contribute to the housing shortage and rising costs. Scapegoating. Blaming immigrants and expats is a classic example of scapegoating, where a vulnerable group is unfairly blamed for broader societal issues. This tactic diverts public anger and frustration away from those who are truly responsible. Divisive politics. Politicians and media outlets sometimes exploit anti-immigrant sentiment for political gain. By framing immigrants as the cause of housing problems, they can rally support from certain voter bases and distract from their own failures to address the crisis effectively. Maintaining the status quo. By shifting the blame to immigrants, wealthy landlords and investors can maintain the status quo. They can continue to profit from high rents and property values without facing pressure to change their practices or contribute to solutions. What should be done? Addressing the housing crisis requires a multifaceted approach that targets the root causes rather than scapegoating vulnerable populations. Here are some potential solutions. Regulate rental markets. Governments should implement regulations to prevent rent gouging and ensure that rental prices remain affordable. This could include rent control measures and stronger tenant protections. Increase housing supply. Investing in new housing developments, particularly affordable housing, is crucial. Governments can incentivize private developers to build affordable homes and invest in public housing projects. Tax empty properties. Implementing taxes on empty properties can discourage speculative investments and ensure that more homes are available for those who need them. Reform zoning laws. Reforming restrictive zoning laws can facilitate new construction and increase the housing supply. This includes allowing for higher density developments and streamlining approval processes. Support community land trusts. Community land trusts, where land is owned collectively by a community, can provide affordable housing and prevent displacement due to gentrification. Promote inclusive policies. Policymakers should promote inclusive policies that integrate immigrants and expats into local communities. This can foster social cohesion and ensure that the economic benefits of immigration are fully realized. The rising cost of the housing market is a complex issue with multiple contributing factors. While it is easy to blame expats for driving up prices, this narrative overlooks the more significant roles played by landlords, investors, and ineffective housing policies. By understanding the true causes of the housing crisis and implementing targeted solutions, we can work towards a more equitable and affordable housing market for all. Remember, staying informed and engaged is crucial. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis and updates on this and other expat-related issues. Together, we can make a difference. If you want to know more about finding your dream expat destination, watch this next video.